Welcome to the Wellness in Every Season podcast, where we embark on a transformative journey towards achieving total wellness, even in the midst of overwhelming moments. I am your host, Autumn Carter, and I'm thrilled to have you here. This podcast is a sanctuary for all mothers out there, and we extend a warm invitation to anyone seeking guidance and inspiration. We believe in fostering an inclusive community where we learn and grow together, supporting each other during life's challenging transitions. Join us as we step out of survival mode and discover the path to thriving, embracing wellness in every season of motherhood. From sleepless nights to new beginnings, we'll explore practical strategies, share heartfelt stories, and uncover the transformative power of self-care and self-love. Together, we'll unlock the wisdom, strength, and resilience within ourselves, reminding one another that we're never alone on this beautiful yet demanding journey. It's time to prioritize your well-being and reclaim your joy, one season at a time. Hello, and welcome to episode 58 of Wellness in Every Season. Today, I have with me Danielle Lynn, and I am going to let her further introduce herself.
Thank you, Autumn. I am so happy to be here. I was a marketer, a business strategist, and I've actually built my own agency that helped scale businesses using things like media buying, ads, and such. But over the last couple years, I've undergone a pretty radical transformation in which I focused on who I was to the things that I was doing to embrace a role that I feel I currently have as something that I call a true self. For me, what this means is it's the act of being. So I live my life as an embodiment of what I want to teach. And what I teach people is something called flow-based living, where you are very clear on your values, the things that you care about most in your life. Because a lot of us move through life thinking we know what we want, but many times the things that we think we want are connected to maybe old beliefs or potentially even trying to protect parts of ourselves that are subconscious. What I do and what I've dedicated my life to doing is being super clear on my values, what I care about living, and then giving myself permission through a combination of intuition and grounded presence in order to live that life moment to moment.
Can you explain to us what grounded intuition is and being more in flow? Dive in a little deeper for us.
Let's start with what grounded intuition is. I would suspect that most, if not all, of our wonderful friends who are tuning in have on some level played with, worked with, interacted with their intuition. Your intuition is the inner guidance, this inner knowing that you receive. And all of us have it. All of us have the ability to experience intuition, receive it. Where a lot of people pause with their intuition is they don't always know when they're receiving intuitive guidance or when they are getting bogged down by feelings, when they're getting bogged down by old beliefs. Grounded intuition is when we're aware of our intuition, but we're also using something called discernment. Our discernment is connected to our values. Discernment is, I would say it's instead of judging says this is good, this is bad. Discernment says this is aligned with my values and who I am, or this is not aligned with my values and who I am. That doesn't make something right or wrong. It just helps you measure within yourself what is an experience you want to have or not. Discernment is that grounded part. It's the part where I am rooted. I am standing firmly in my values, guided by my discernment. When those feelings come into my body, into my head, into my heart, then I can connect with it's almost like an inner tuning fork. I can take that sensation, balance it against my inner tuning fork, and that is grounded intuition. With grounded intuition, we start to be able to use it in practical ways in our lives. So instead of just feeling something or knowing something's there, when we hit the point of understanding how to receive information and discern, we can start applying that to things like, what choice shall I make in the moment? Should I take this job or not? What might be a good path for me to choose in my career?
I'm taking a course for coaches called Positive Intelligence, and it's so similar. I'm enjoying hearing the similarities to it.
Well, that's really cool. I'm actually very curious. What would you say is one of the ways in that course or in that experience they describe this kind of practice so we could see a parallel, another perspective of
Yeah,
it?
we have the saboteurs because of trauma. I very much have the high achiever I need to be doing. I get that ants in the pants feeling and weakening that area as well as the judge and my other saboteur. Those ones are so strong that I don't even remember what the third one is. Everybody has the judge. And then there's two other ones that are strong that are like friends with the judge, but the judge is the strongest. So as you're weakening those, you are strengthening the sage side of you, and that is allowing you to have that intuition and to have that peaceful feeling. And when you're getting rid of all that other chatter, you're able to then know, where is my path? And when you were
Mm.
talking, I was visualizing a path and how we've been decluttering. We decluttered our kitchen. And that was like our last big area that we needed to do. We do it every couple of years, a really big declutter. And now our house is aligning to us. And it's like you're taking the path is this wide, and you can go all over this path, but you're still going the same direction, but you're aligning it more, making it more narrow and no, this is where I want to go. And that's what I was envisioning when you were talking. That is so cool. Is there anything else you want to talk about with that before we go into the cycles?
Yes. One is just a comment on your kitchen decluttering because I just decluttered my whole pantry, which I'm like, oh, this is an amazing synchronicity, meaning something that aligns for the both of us beyond time and space. So this is a way that I have used the grounded intuition to guide my life is I had been recently wanting to have more clarity in some of the ways that I connect what I do with others. Because while people find me, I was like, what are some ways I can be more clear about this? And my intuitive guidance was like, okay, your current step is declutter. Go ahead and declutter the kitchen closet. I realized part of that was moving out things that had been stuck and stagnant, like literally, physically, so that I could make space for new concepts, new air to come through, because our house is like an extension of our body, of our family unit, in your case. Doing that clearing and cleaning out outside can also reflect back inside and help us clear inner space for deeper discernment and deeper wisdom. Wanted to take a moment to say that was very cool. And the other thing that I would say is intuition and discernment are really rooted in a deep trust in yourself. And I'm mentioning this because I have found trust begins in our body. I love that you were talking about like the different voices and also every single one of us who has some form of trauma we process. The parts of us that pop up that might be a little shaky or have doubt or unknowing or uncertainty, when we learn how to navigate and coordinate and discuss and work with them, like you were talking about these different parts of yourself, then we can develop a unification within ourselves that's not about either fighting or suppressing the different parts of ourselves that are interfacing. It's about everything in its resonant place, everyone with their resonant voice, and listening all together. Suddenly we don't have that sabotaging element because every part of ourselves know that it is respected on some level and that it has its voice. And this helps the trust in the body, which helps the discernment and the intuition. So those are the two pieces that you brought up that I was like, oh, that's so good. So thank you for that.
Tell me about cycles. I'm really excited to learn about this.
I love it. Let's dive right in. So, cycles and the discussion around cycles is one of the things that you and I had initially connected on. And let's pull a few common ones. We have the cycles of the moon, the cycles of the season. We have our bodies, daily circadian rhythm. There are cycles within cycles. All of nature shows us that things in the world, things in this natural structure we live in, they ebb and they flow. Something that brought me to the exploration of cycles is really connected to my choice to live in the flow-based way. Some people could look at flow-based living as manifestation. If I create enough things, then I can feel stable enough to live the way I want. But the interesting thing about creating that way is we're still creating from a premise almost of lack. It's almost like I have to create enough stuff so I have enough breathing room so I can finally exist. That's one way. And to be clear, I'm not saying everyone lives that way. There was a lot of periods in time where I was looking at things that way. Let me make more and more money. If I make this much, then I will have enough space to exist as who I truly am. And if I have this much success, I will feel competent and safe enough in my life. And I will feel safe enough existing as myself and doing all the weird, funny things I do to have permission to do that because I have success and money here. And that was like my ticket, right? Beyond the stuff that we need money for to support ourselves and whatnot. I reached a certain place in my business where I had more than enough money, like more than enough money. And I remember one day waking up, feeling so tense and anxious and in my head. And I remember the thought that I had was, wow, if I didn't have the money I did right now, I would presume I needed more money to fix this. But I have the money. I just feel completely unsettled. I felt like I was having to grasp at the bed. And I'm like, oh, having the excess money hasn't actually resolved what this is. So, what is this? This is what brought me to my exploration where I would finally start to connect with cycles again. Because what I realized is on some level, I was living in my head. I was constructing from my head resolutions to perceived problems I had and thinking, okay, if I have enough control, and money was one form of control, or having time was control, or whatever it was that I think I needed to have, if I have enough of this, it'll completely resolve this. But in a way, my mind was steamrolling the rest of the signals. And we talked about the different presences or messages in the body. It was going, no, guys, I got this. I'm going to handle this for all of us. It was like the steamrolling parent. I would get the result, but then it'd be like, why aren't you guys happy? While the rest of me is, okay. I think many of us can relate to levels of that in our lives. So something that really shifted for me significantly, I mentioned about 2 years ago, I made this shift because I was at this peak in the relationship I had at the time. It was a 10-year relationship. I had been running my business for 6 years, and I felt I was at this strange plateau. Couldn't quite figure out what it was because it seemed like I had been checking off all the items on my list of what I needed to do to be happy. I started going inward, and by that, I mean meditating. I mean journal. I started to do this thing where I would just journal out, almost like dumping everything that was in my head and just seeing what was it that I was thinking and writing. I realized there was a part of me calling out to be heard, but it wasn't to be heard outside of me. It was to be heard inside, to be heard by me. And on some level, I kept silencing that voice. How this connects to cycles. I started to realize that I was very plugged in to an external system that told me I constantly needed to be achieving and growing and doing in order for things to be okay. But the voice inside of me was like, are we allowed to rest now? Can we stop now? Am I enough now? Are we there yet? And I realized I wasn't tuning into a framework where I could turn to that inner child, that inner part of me, and be like, yes, darling, we can embrace entropy. Not everything has to rise all the time. We can say yes to rest. As a fellow, very ambitious woman who had a hard time relaxing because it was, oh, isn't there something that I was supposed to be doing? And I simultaneously had been looking for a new place to live. And what was funny is every time I would find a place, I'd be like, it needs more trees. It needs more trees, almost subconsciously, till I found the place that I am at the time of you and I talking, which is actually a house nestled in the middle of a few acres of forest. So I'm living currently in the forest. And this is wild for me because I literally grew up in LA. Like I was literally in the middle of the city, but I've always loved nature. And I found when I came to the forest, my intuition said two things loud and clear to me. It literally said, this is going to help your nervous system reset. And it said, your teacher and your new family are the trees. And I went, okay. It's very interesting. I wasn't even sure how I was going to approach that at first. I started having books come into my space. Braiding, I think it's Braiding with Sweetgrass. And forgive me if I'm saying the book name wrong, but let's just say it's Braiding with Sweetgrass. Another one was, I believe, The Secret Life of Trees. And what I started to do was just every day go out and spend time in the trees and go, all right, well, if you're my teacher, show me. I would just sit, and for a long time, I'd be in my head. But then eventually I started being with the trees and contemplating what it was like to be a tree and noticing how strong the trees were and how they literally had cycles. Like when their leaves were falling, I didn't think any less. I wasn't like, oh man, tree, you're not producing new green leaves. You're off your game. I was like, wow, this tree is so wise that it knows exactly when to drop its leaves and chill out because it's not going to be very productive in the winter. It's going to be burning so much energy trying to push leaves out during the winter that it's, no, we're good, chilling. And then it knows right when to bring them back in the spring. And this was my instigation into the realm of the wisdom of cycles. If my tree mentor was showing me that it was still brilliant and grounded and empowered, and it could drop its leaves, then maybe so could I.
I have not heard of the first book, but the second book I got halfway through, and then life. In the Magic School Bus, they talk about this, and it was really fun to be able to be like, kids, I knew about that from this book, where the roots can talk to each other, the roots of trees. You don't want to cut down a forest because they all are connected and they talk to each other and they can send signals. So this is what I need. And they just help each other out. When I was reading that part of the book, it made me think about friendships and how we need to have those strengths and those people around. If people aren't super into nature, what she was doing on a very fundamental level was grounding herself. And there's so much science in being around nature for grounding because you have all the plants around you, they have the roots in the ground, obviously, but she is feeling the sun, she is feeling the breeze, she is feeling the seasons, and she is physically seeing them. And there's so much more that she was also doing. But for those of you that might be listening and be thinking this isn't my cup of tea or whatever, think about it in ways that you can bring nature in to allow yourself to see those things as well. And just ease into it because there are aspects that are still super for you, even if you're not fully in the season of life to fully understand where she was. Trust me, all of us will get to that point in our life where we're like, nothing feels quite right. In therapy, they talk about that as parts work, where you have different parts of you. And when they are not in alignment, it doesn't feel right. We've all felt that feeling where something's wrong, we're not sure what it is. And if we watch TV, that's at the point where the actors start throwing things away to figure out what's not fitting. Sometimes they throw away their whole life and then you see them rebuilding it. I hate that part of the show. It's usually when I stop, and I'm not a TV watcher anyway. But think about yourself in her shoes, even if you need to go back a little bit and listen to what she was saying. There's so many layers that you just shared. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about with cycles? Because this is so good and I'm totally nerding out.
Oh, yes, I would absolutely love to, because here's where the really cool part comes in for people when it comes to cycles. Because we're talking trees, cycle, seasons, but the big reveal, the big reason that this is so exciting, and I love that you brought this up as well about the roots in the community, is twofold. One is that it's our natural state to be in tune with not only our inner cycles, but with the cycles of the world around us. All right. Now we're tying that grounded intuition back in. Because, yes, while we can choose the focus of our lives, and while I teach a lot of people about flow based reality creation, part of being in flow based reality creation is being aware of your cycles of ebb and flow. Am I in a cycle of building, rising, creating, growing? Or am I in a cycle of letting go, of shifting, of resting, of rejuvenation? Both of these cycles are essential to each of us being not only our most powerful being, but they are essential to tending. You talked about parts work. They're essential to being loving and tending to all the parts of ourselves, because the different parts of ourselves need different things at different times. Just like sometimes we need sunlight so that we can be out there and bask, but sometimes we need it to be nighttime. We need to close our eyes. There's actually some cities like at the poles of the earth where it's sunlight all the time. In order to go to sleep, they got to make things blackout so that they can give themselves what their cycle needs. And what happens is, as we get more clear, we're not just talking about body cycles, but as we get clear with our creative cycles and we start to trust our intuitions and trust ourselves, we start to live the kind of life where we shift from the anxiety of what we've been told we should do into the grounded wisdom and knowing of what opportunities are present, not just to build and live the life I want, but to connect with synchronistic or chance happening opportunities, to connect with the kinds of communities and friends that not only enrich our lives, but we can start building with them, whether it's community, whether it's friendship, whether it's the type of businesses and teams that we don't just wish existed. But when we start living in this flow-based state and others are doing that as well in their lives, and we come together, we start to create possibilities in businesses and relationships that can have ripples that literally will start changing the world. You show the world that it is possible to not only thrive, because we were all built to thrive. This is the thing that I have learned from the trees and from nature. Every single thing, every single one of us, we have our place, our way of moving. But if we listen to the intelligence of our cycles and our intuition in coordination, and we make choices and steps in the present moment on what that looks like, which can include really practical things like, I'm going to take care of my physical health today. I'm going to wash the dishes. All these things can be practical steps that tend to our lives, but we are listening to it not from a place of what I should do. We're moving in a place of discernment and intuition and knowing of our right place at the right time while others do the same thing. And then we start operating the way the trees do, where we start receiving information from others who are receiving information from us, and certain events start to line up in big and small ways.
Last question, because I just noticed the time. Sorry.
Absolutely.
How does this relate to women?
Women are some of the original cycle keepers, like through our menstruation, right? There is, man, we could do like a whole talk on menstruation itself, but let's say this. For us inside of our bodies, we have that very natural rhythm of life and death. We literally can carry life inside of us. And our menstruation cycles are an opportunity for creation when we're ovulating, when the egg is released. And if it's not fertilized or if it just passes through, then it completes, it dies, it breaks down. So within us, every month, we have this cycle of creativity, receptivity, and then letting go and releasing. So we literally, in our body, we embody that knowing of the cycles. And I know that there's a lot of us who have been taught, like, oh gosh, you're on your period, you're on this, you're on that. The thing is, if we actually embrace the process of our period, whether it has even perceived physical pain, whether it's something that seems to quote unquote derail our lives, I invite every single one of us on the next period we have, if you are one listening who has one, to go all in with your next period experience, not from a place of resistance, but to say, how is this a gift to me? And what wisdom do I get when I go, all right, this is what's happening. I am part of this cycle and there is something here for me. That simple shift in my perception about my period has actually changed how I physically experience my period. It's also changed the way that I approach so many other layers of my life that I would have once resisted. So working with your period and leaning in to the ebbs and flows of that can be one of your first teachers about how to approach different areas of your life that you once were in resistance to.
Wow, you went in a different direction than I expected. It was so much better. So I listened to a podcast episode years ago where the person being interviewed was talking about planning for those cycles and your natural, I have more energy here and I'm going to be lower here. And taking that in with going more with the flow while talking about flow. Anyway, just putting those together, that was very interesting for my brain. I'm going to be thinking about that for a while. Is there anything else that you want to share really quick on that? And then can you tell us how to find you?
Yes, absolutely. I love your idea of planning and being aware. It's an opportunity, your menstrual cycle, like you said, to pattern a bit, to notice when energy goes up and when it goes down, and then pattern that to other cycles in your life. The more we observe it, the more you can move with wisdom, like you're riding waves. And for people who'd like to find me, they can find me at daniellelynn.com, DanielleLynn.com. I have a website on there with some resources. I'll put video up on YouTube, and there should be a few free resources on there as well. So I'm very happy for anyone who feels resonant to connect, and please feel free to reach out if something in here tickled you or inspired you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on. And the last thing that I missed, tell me about your ideal client, and then we'll end there.
My ideal client is someone who is aware on some level that they're either in the middle of a transformation or they have been taking the steps towards truly living what they want. And this could be in relationships, this could be in their business. The thing is, it's not about specifically trying to force what they want to create. They are so committed to being who they truly are that they're ready to take that leap. I am someone who helps guide and way show people who are ready to make that kind of transformation in their life in both very practical ways, as I do a lot of business work and relationship work, but also in very expanded ways.
Thank you again for being on.
Thank you. I had a wonderful time, Autumn.
In the next week's enchanting episode of our podcast, we'll delve into the mesmerizing world of habit stacking, an intriguing journey that unveils the transformative power of small, consistent actions woven into the fabric of our daily lives. Imagine a world where each tiny habit, like the delicate threads of a tapestry, interlaces to create a vibrant, robust picture of health, happiness, and fulfillment. In this episode, we explore the delicate art of layering habits upon one another, creating a symphony of routines that dance in harmony, leading to profound changes that resonate deep within the soul. As we navigate the nuances of this technique, we'll share touching stories and insightful strategies, guiding you through the subtle shifts that can lead to monumental transformations in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, ensuring you're part of this extraordinary journey as the episode goes live next week, a beacon of hope and inspiration in the ever-evolving narrative of your life. Join us as we embark on this path together, discovering the magic that unfolds when the simple becomes the spectacular through the power of habit stacking. And this is my reminder that I'm not going to wear these aligners during the recording next week. Sorry. Bye. Thank you for joining us on this week's refreshing wellness discussion. I am Autumn Carter, your guide through the seasons of motherhood, and I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights during our time together. If you resonated with the topics we explored today and want to continue your wellness journey, I invite you to follow me on Instagram at Mom's Wellness in every season. There you'll discover a wealth of ongoing wellness tips specifically curated for moms like you. Sharing our podcast with others is an act of caring, and I invite you to spread the word by sharing, subscribing, and leaving a review wherever you enjoy your podcast. Your support is deeply valuable to us and enables us to reach more mothers who are seeking transformation and empowerment. If you have a specific topic you'd like us to cover in more detail, or if you're interested in a free coaching consultation, don't hesitate to reach out. You can send me a direct message on Instagram or visit my website, wellnessineveryseason.com, to send an email. I'm here to support you on your wellness journey. Thank you again for being part of our vibrant community. I am genuinely excited to connect with you, hear your stories, and continue this important discussion in the weeks to come. Until next time, remember to prioritize your well-being, embrace every season with grace, and always strive for wellness in every aspect of your motherhood journey. Take care, and I can't wait to catch up with you soon.